Hi everyone, it's Christine here from Ever After Paper Crafts, and today I have a super simple but super fun card to share with you using this adorable stamp set from Craftin Desert Divas. Here's the little card we're going to be working on today. As you can see, it's a very simple layout, very simple little card, but it is super cute, and I hope you love it. So what we're going to be working on today is how I created this background that we have our little dinosaur on, and then I'll do a quick coloring of the dinosaur as well. The stamp set that I'm going to be using today is a very new stamp set from Craftin Desert Divas called Dino Dig, and it is adorable. Look at all these super cute little images here, as well as some really fun little sentiments. My 4-year-old loves this stamp set and has already claimed this card, so I'm not allowed to send it to anyone. It goes to my little boy named Isaac. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. What I did here first is I went ahead and I kind of had the layout in my head, so this strip of white paper here is cut at 2.5 inches by 5.5. So it's the full length of a standard A2 size card, and then I just cut it at 2.5 inches. And I cut it with Bristol Smooth cardstock because I'm going to be doing ink blending, and that is my favorite cardstock for ink blending. So I'm going to bring over some scratch paper here, and I'm going to pull out some Salty Ocean Distress ink. And that's just how I'm going to create my clouds. Now, if you recall from the finished card here, we have some sand at the bottom here. I kind of envisioned these as kind of like, you know, you're out in the west and there's a lot of sand dunes and things of that nature. So that's kind of what I was going for with that look. So we know the clouds don't have to go all the way down. So I'm just going to start about here. That should be good enough. And this just happens to be a stencil, a cloud stencil that I have in my craft room, but you could do this with a scallop circle die or a regular circle die or a punch, anything of that nature. So I'm just going to go ahead and quickly make some clouds here on this strip of cardstock. I'm going to go very quickly here. And again, I am using Salty Ocean Distress ink. This is one of my favorites for skies. It's just a really pretty blue for skies. I really like working with it. I like working with all the distress inks though, quite honestly. They're all fabulous. And if you haven't tried the Distress Oxides, I definitely recommend them. They are fantastic. Alright, so there's our clouds. See how easy that was? How super simple that was to create those fun clouds. Alright, so I'm going to set that aside. We're done with our blue ink, so I'm going to close up the Salty Ocean. And now what we're going to do is work on the sand down here. So what I did was I took this die here, and this actually is from Craftin Desert Divas, and it comes in the ocean the ocean die set, which is really awesome. It has gorgeous waves. I've done other cards with other dies from that set before, and this could be a wave. But I decided to kind of re-envision it and use it for just little rocks, or so to speak, or sand dunes, or whatever you want to call it. So what I did is I just simply cut another strip of a rectangle Bristol Smooth cardstock, the same exact length and width, so 2.5 by 5.5. I put this here, taped, you know, put some non-stick tape or low tack tape rather, ran it through my Big Shot, then turned it over just to save on cardstock and ran it through again. And I was left with these two pieces. So hopefully that makes sense. So like here and here is how I did that. And so I ran it through this way and then ran it through upside down that way just to save on cardstock. And I was left with this. So this gives me two pieces of cardstock like so. And they'll be adhered to each other like this. But first we want to go ahead and ink them all up. So I'm going to be using my favorite browns from my Distress inks. I'm going to be using Antique Linen, Vintage Photo, and Walnut Stain. So let me go ahead and get these on their little ink blending tools quickly here. And then we'll go ahead and do this quick distress inking. This is really easy to do. The first step is I like to just coat the entire piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock with the Antique Linen. So that's the first step here. So I'm going to do these each piece separately here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just coat the whole thing with the antique linen. And I'm not being super careful with this. I just want to get the whole, so a little tiny bit of the super light brown color on the cardstock. That's good, and it is very light, so hopefully that shows up on the camera. I'm going to do the same thing with the larger piece here. Just get that down quickly, super quickly. And now we're going to come in with our next darkest, the Vintage Photo. And for the Vintage Photo, what we're going to do is we're going to start off the paper and in a circular motion, just kind of go around the perimeter of the cardstock, just around. We kind of want to have some light shading in the middle. And that's just to show highlights and just kind of show that there's a shadow and a light part and a darker part. So something like that. And I'm going to do the same thing to the smaller piece here. Just make sure you start off the paper and work your way in so you don't get too big of a splotch on your cardstock. So something like so. That looks good. All right. And now we're going to take the darkest, which is the walnut stain, and we're going to lightly come in with it. Similar idea to what we just did with the Vintage Photo, but just a lighter hand and just a little bit less ink. We just kind of want a very subtle look to this. So something like that on the smaller piece. I'm going to do the same thing now on the darker piece. Just coming in with that darker color here. Starting off the paper and in a circular motion, working our way in. And there we go. So now the final step is we're going to take our antique linen again. Let me just make sure I have the right, yes I do, the right ink. And we're going to come in and blend it all together. Just kind of go in the middle and work all those colors out so you no longer see a harsh line between where one color starts and one color stops. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm just taking my antique linen and blending it again with those darker colors and the lines that the darker colors created to blend it all out so it just looks very smooth, I guess would be a good word to describe it. You want a smooth transition from one color to another and very subtle shading. So now we are done with our distress inking. So let me quickly put the caps on all of these inks so I don't make a mess. All right, here's the Vintage Photo. Put this one away. And then finally the walnut stain. And these these are my go-tos for any type of sand or rock or anything of that nature. These browns work beautifully together. And they actually come, these mini cubes come in the same pack. All these browns come in the same pack. So, you know, which makes sense since they go so well together. So now I'm going to take my Distress sprayer and I'm just going to lay these down like so. And I'm just going to give it a little spritz with my Distress sprayer so we get some really fun distress look here. And I'm going to let that sit for just a few seconds here. And then I'm going to take a piece of paper towel and I'm going to blot it. And you'll be left with a really fun distressed look. So now you can see you have a really fun distressed look to your sand or your rocks or whatever look you're going for with this fun dinosaur. Okay, so then the idea would be we would bring back over our cloud background and then we would simply, once these are completely dry, adhere our little brown rocks or sand dunes to this panel. And then our dinosaur is going to be here. We're going to cut him out and pop him out and he'll be kind of in here in the rocks with his fun little truck. All right. So that's how we created this background to the card. And then I would have just adhered the background to a piece of chocolate brown cardstock. So nothing super complicated about this at all. Just some fun working with our distress inks to create this fun look. And as you can see, as I bring this up, you can see that distress look as well down here to the sand. I didn't do that to the sky because we were using the cloud stencils, so but I did use that water effect with the distress ink on the bottom. So the final step then is, of course, to color our fun little dinosaur. And to do that, I am going to be coloring on Canson XL watercolor paper. I've already stamped him down, and I'm going to be using my Zig markers. I'm only using, believe it or not, 4 markers to color this little guy. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in now so you can see the coloring, and I'm going to call out the colors as I use them. Now the dinosaur is going to be done in let's see, olive green. I'm going to be using a water brush to do my watercolor painting of this cute image. So I'm going to do this very quickly. I'm going to come in with my olive green marker, and I'm going to put the marker down where I feel it's going to be darkest. He's kind of facing this way, so I'm assuming the sun's kind of coming down this way. So the areas to the left, so in other words, the left of his head here and his shoulders are certainly going to be darkest. So now I'm going to take my water brush and pull this color that I've laid down out into the open white space that we've left behind here. And we're going to want to pull it all out into this larger nose area and pull it out. Now I want to put just a little bit of color down here on his chin. I feel like it's going to be a little dark there as well. And you can see that marker reacting with the water that I've put down already with the water brush. So we're just going to kind of let that do its thing and spread a little bit, and then use the brush tip of the water brush to pull it up a little bit. And that looks really good. Now I went a little bit out of the line here, and let me show you how to fix that. I don't even know if you can see it on camera, but there's a tiny little bit of ink, of marker rather, that has come out of the line here. All you do to fix that is you scribble off the tip of your water brush till no color comes off, so you now have a clean water brush, and you go in and you just simply push that color out and then dab it up with a piece of paper towel. So now it is all completely gone. You can't see that I went out of the lines at all. Now I'm just taking my water brush. There was a little bit of a harsh line that was left behind there, and I'm just rubbing that out. I don't like to see harsh lines in my coloring, so I just like to rub them out with the water brush. Okay, so we are done. No, actually, we're not done. I was going to say we're done with our green marker, but I forgot his little hands. So we'll do his little hands here, and then there's a little bit of his body showing through the steering wheel. So we will take care of that as well. Go ahead and cap our green marker, and then use our water brush to pull these colors together here. All right, so now we have our dinosaur all done. Sometimes you do have to go back at these markers that have come out just a couple more times if it goes out of the line. Just keep at it. It's kind of similar to if you've ever worked with Copics and you had the blender pen. I'm sorry, not the blender pen, but the colorless blender, I guess it was called. That is the similar idea. So now I'm going to take my blue marker and just color this little car really quickly. And like I said, kind of to the left is going to be a little bit darker. So, and I'm doing this very, very quickly, but just so you can get the idea of how this little guy was colored. And now coming in with my water brush and just pulling all of this color up and around to fill in the remainder of the white space. This blue is a really pretty blue, by the way. This is just called blue, this particular marker color. And it is really nice, really pretty, I think. I'm a big fan. I always find myself reaching for this blue. There are plenty of other pretty blues in the Zig markers, but this one is definitely my favorite. All right, so we're done with that, and now we're going to put our cap on that, and we're going to need our gray marker, which I did forget to call out at the beginning. So there will actually be 5 colors that I used to color this little guy. So we'll put some gray here and on the tires, and on the little, you know, just basically the metal, if you will, parts of his little car here. Let me make sure I'm on camera still. Yep, looking good. So now we'll just pull this gray color that we have laid out into the remainder of the white space that still remains here. And we want to come in and color these little things as well. All right, so we're just pulling the color, very simple here. Nothing fancy or special with this coloring at all. Just doing this very quickly for the purposes of the video so you can get an idea. And then I saw this as kind of just a little gas, you know, exhaust poof of smoke or what have you. So I just put very little gray on it and then pulled that out with my water brush. And then, of course, the steering wheel here. And I think I'm just going to color it and not worry about the water brush because it is such a small space. Now we need to color his little hat. I'm going to use a light brown for his little hat here. And again, I feel like the darkest part of the hat is going to be the left side. So that's where I'll scribble the marker down and then pull it out with the water brush. And then the little stripe on the hat I'm going to do in blue to match his little car. All right, there we have it. So all that's left now is he has a little bit of a marking on his face here. So I'm going to come in with the light brown again and just pull that out just a little bit. And now finally the rock itself. The rock itself, I'm going to be using brown and light brown. And I would do the same to these little rocks as well, but I actually cut this little guy out. So I'm not even going to bother to color the little tiny rocks because, you know, that I didn't really want to fussy cut those. I just wanted kind of the main image here. So I didn't worry too much about those guys. So there's the brown that we wanted to lay down. And now I'm going to come in with the light brown and just pull this color out. So I kind of just put some brown on the left side, of course, where it's going to be darkest, behind his little head here, and then some of these little, looks like crevices in the rock where it certainly would be shaded. I came in and did some brown there as well. And then now we're just going to take our water brush and pull all of these colors out. Super simple, and you have a really cool looking rock when you're all done. Really neat. And super simple. Now I did this fast, so I've gone out of the lines a few places, of course. You know, that's going to happen if you're going fast and you're not paying as much attention as you should. But generally speaking, you can get a really pretty colored image done really, really quickly. Even, you know, even going fast, you know, maybe a little less fast than I just did. But even so, you can still see the lovely shading that you get. So here's the finished card again. So all that I would do is I would go ahead and cut him out, fussy cut him out here, as you can see, and then adhere him to the little Distress ink panel that we created with our Distress inks and our clouds and our sand here. And that's what we did here on camera. So you can see, whoops, let me put it down just a little bit. So you just adhere this to your chocolate cardstock, adhere all of that to the 4.5 by 4.25 by 5.5 standard A2 card base, and then pop your little guy up, and you have a really fun, super simple little card there. So again, very uncomplicated, but very fun, and you get to use a few products, a few techniques with your Distress inking, and then of course your watercoloring of your dinosaur. And then I put your dynamite, I just stamped that directly down on this panel here with black ink. And then I just added 3 little sequins of a coppery color that I had in my stash. And that's it, guys. Super simple card for you today. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much as always for stopping by, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.